Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desmond, and I'm very glad to say we've got a full house tonight. I will start by welcoming our resident tactician who does not want us to sell Jota to fund the signing of various other players, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Evening, gentlemen.
I don't know, Hector, if you saw that story that's been going about, but certain analysts have been suggesting it could. But we'll come to our financial man in a minute, and he might appreciate that story. Over the man over the water, he's no longer on a scouting mission to continental Europe. Monty Burns, good evening, Monty.
Evening, lads. How are you?
Yes. So again, Monty, we'll maybe come to balancing the books and speculating to accumulate a little bit on, given we've got 2 weeks of a window left. But on my bottom right of my screen, we have a man with a large bottle of beer in his hand, so God only knows how tonight will go. Good evening, Ralph Malf.
How you doing? You okay? It's a bottle of cider.
What are we drinking tonight, Ralph? Usually Hector's got a nice chilled Sauvignon, and Monty's usually got his own home brew, as we call it, the Spade Town Lager, but there's nothing tonight. We went very healthy. Oh, Hector's on a Highland Spring, and Ralph, you're on?
Mixed tropical.
Mixed fruit cocktail. Oh, you're on the cider, you're on the cocktails.
A reference to Ireland, I'm not sure at all. But it's nice.
And Monty's sporting a very nice yield handlebar moustache mug. And there's Ralph, what dog is that? We've not had a dog in the podcast for a while. What one? Izzy?
Aye.
Oh God, well done. Well, good to see Izzy back. Hopefully we'll hear from him soon. Right, I've got a few shout outs to make first. First of all, an apology apparently I need to make for the last podcast. I know we're not really into apologies, but I've got an apology to make to a certain Mr. David McLaughlin from his holiday home in Spain, who complains that while being on holiday he had to listen to music being played in the background of the last podcast. Sadly, he didn't quite get the Guess Who's Back Eminem joke playing through the back of the podcast, given it was our first of the season. So, and given David's our only listener these days, I have taken his seat and we're not going to play any music in the background tonight. So David, I hope that's okay with you. And also talking about correspondence, Hector, I know I was surprised one morning last week to come on our Twitter account and you had pinged to say that Celtic FC Shop was looking for me to tell us that we had actually won a competition.
Not we, Desi, not we.
No, it's a collective. It's a collective. Everyone goes.
Not Isney.
When we step up, and then we'll come to that in a minute. We actually won an award. We actually won the right to name a new anime cuddly toy, which Celtic have got a whole host of Japanese-inspired cuddly toys in. So we won the competition to name the shark, which was called Jota, Jawta. But somebody already actually physically beat us to it, so we actually gave them the prize. But Celtic FC Shop, God bless them, actually sent me one of the cuddly toys, so that's the picture for tonight's podcast. So that was quite good. So, along with that, Hector, we've also been declared an alternative national treasure by Memorial Device.
I still don't have a clue.
You're not doing with the kids.
I'm not a hipster anymore.
It's the fact, the best thing about it was Monty got very upset with the word national treasure. He thought we'd basically taken the golden shilling and started taking me. So that's that. So we've had 2 bits of good luck so far this season. Alternative national treasures and wee Jota. So that was good. I wonder what our third good luck piece could be. Maybe this week's Paradise Windfall. But before we look forward, let's look back to see what's happened since the last podcast. So basically we've had 3 games. We came on just before the season started. Aberdeen, Ross County and Killie. So let's just go through those games. I'll start with you, Hector, as our tactician. We were optimistic before the season started. We thought we'd get the players in early. Aberdeen, the 2-0 opener. Let's start with a great tifo around the ground. That was a nice way to start the season, wasn't it?
It was tremendous, wasn't it? Really, really good and well done. And just you see other clubs, let's not name them, other clubs when they're trying to do it. Some of them seem to struggle to just do some simple stuff, but every time the Green Brigade or the fans do it, they seem to do it really, really well. So well done, all involved, brilliant. It was almost like a pre-season game. It's kind of felt like that. Celtic were so in control. 1-0 in Aberdeen. Actually missed it. Johnny Hayes missed a sitter, didn't he, before half time? And that really was it from them. Interesting if they scored. I think Celtic would just run up a couple of gears. So it was 2-0, an easy 2-0, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was strange. It was like a 4:45 kick-off, 4:45, remember? And it was like one of the, as you say, a pre-season game, but very much it didn't really have that real feel about it. I mean, it was a sunny day and. Yeah.
You felt as if Celtic could go up a gear or two. You felt as if they were in total control, and that's no surprise, is it? When you look at their squad compared to theirs, because they've completely rebuilt, haven't they, over the summer? Goodwin at Aberdeen. Interested to see how they do. The Ross County game.
We'll come up.
Aberdeen first.
Because I know Ralph is looking to celebrate the Aberdeen game. Because Ralph, I believe, they actually let you over the border for the first time in a long time.
Not only was it the first time I was over the border, it was the first time I went to a game completely stone cold sober for about 15 years. I went into the ground early, listened to your man singing, and it was brilliant. The pre-match atmosphere was, alright, it's maybe different for me because I'm not used to it. But
sober, you mean? Because you're sober.
I get in, they were singing Grace, then it was let people sing, then I found my seat and I just soaked it all up. It was kind of the curtains opening for what I'm thinking is going to be a great season. And then you watch a game and we score within a few minutes, and then Aberdeen put everybody into the penalty box, because if you're watching Celtic, you'll know they go down the flanks, we'll cut the ball back. And that maybe frustrated a bit. And I'm thinking, all right, it's the first competitive game. We're going to be a bit rusty. But after the game, I don't know if you noticed, Ange came out and said, no, it starts now. We should be ready. We should be ready to deal with all that. And, getting back down the road, thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to going up again this weekend.
Oh, you're coming back? You're allowed us. Your wife's letting you out again. Shocker. So. And I know you like a bet on the football, Ralph. Usually is it 7-0 we usually go for. But did you actually manage to have Stephen Welsh to score Celtic's first goal of the season?
I don't think Stephen Welsh had Stephen Welsh.
From a set piece, no less.
One of the biggest criticisms over the last couple of years has been that we don't score free corners. And I think maybe half the goals we scored already this season if we call.
Yeah, I'll come.
It's simple, straightforward stuff.
Yep, I'll come on to that. Right, Monty, we'll start with a joke with you. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Tom Rodgick.
Tom Rodgick, who?
Who cares when Jota can hit them from anywhere? What the? So, what about that for a statement of intent from the second best player in Scotland?
Yeah, it terrifies you to think how good the best player in Scotland must be. He's just, it's one of the steals of the century as regards a transfer fee. And I think, if I'm not misquoting this, when he won Player of the Tournament in that, was it the Under-20s World Cup or Under-20 Euros? I think Madrid offered something like 22 million and Benfica turned it down. I think they said they had a release clause at that time of around 30 or 40. There's an article, I found it just randomly reading about the guy. The fact that we've done that business for that price is just scandalous. I think we'll struggle to keep him if he keeps playing like this. And in fact, I see a couple of the in the know, let's call them, websites starting to fly a few kites around. Maybe we're coming under pressure to sell an asset, and that's why we're looking at the Bosnian winger. But what a strike! His technique, everything about him. He's just a really, really top player. Desi, he's a joy to watch, and he's in a team and in a system that suits him. But the other side of it too, the work that he does. He's not just a fancy Dan. He's not afraid of the hard work. And if you're a top league team looking for an effective winger who's prepared to work, You don't really find an awful lot of them.
I just ask, when you're saying winger, would he not be a phenomenal number 10? Being able to go on both feet, being able to see a pass, and being able to hit it when he sees a gap.
Yeah, but I think Ralph, he doesn't have, those guys have an instinct, a very selfish instinct. I don't think Jota's like that. I think he's very much, he's the perfect team player. He'll sacrifice so much of himself for the team. He doesn't have that ego or that arrogance, I think, to be that. But I totally agree. Technically, he's got everything to be that number 2.
To look at that as a drawback, that selfishness. Maybe the advantage that Jota may have over these players. And I know I'm scooting away ahead and putting on green tinted glasses, but that boy's a special player. And one of the reasons he stayed with us or come to us in the first place might be that he's had that conversation with Ange. Listen, son, I can see this in you, although he would have done it in a different accent. And maybe
Go on, try your best.
Barry Ferguson, Kennedy accent.
The simple fact that I've been in the game for the first time in a long time, and I've seen a lot of stuff that impresses me. And
I suspect there's an element of when Van Dijk came to Celtic, don't buy somewhere. You're only going to be here a couple of years. And
the Dembele aspect, isn't it? Right, 18 months, son, and you'll be. But again, that's interesting you say that, Ralph. Also, I don't know if any of you've noticed, Hector, you may have noticed it for you. You've got the opposite position on the ground to me. But when Celtic were facing a set piece, they left Jota on the halfway line. And he basically stands like 20 yards away from the centre half who's standing there. And he's just waiting, because like, you know what Joe Hart's like, as soon as he gets the ball, he's just looking to release it immediately. Jota's just waiting there to spring, as if they've got something ready. It's not as if he's just late, he's just waiting. And then he kind of does the old Henrik Larsson covered run thing, as if he's building up speed to collect the ball. And I don't know if you remember that Turnbull missed a wee chance at the end in the Aberdeen game. Yep. Remember, it would have been a great goal, but that was kind of inspired with that whole breakout, and Jota's just ready to go at that bottom left-hand corner. It's quite interesting. I'm waiting to see, like, as and when that perfect goal comes for that. You can see it's something I've already planned out. It's quite interesting.
Even at the weekend against Kilmarnock, you'll notice on at least a couple of occasions, Jota from halfway in his own half, we defended a corner, got it out, went to him, and first time he's trying to hit a channel to get Maeda in behind. In fact, the second goal came from that. He didn't quite hit it right, and Maeda won the second goal and fed it back. Jota scored the peach. But they've obviously worked a lot on that, probably the benefit of having a prolonged pre-season.
Maybe that's the Harry Cool effect, who knows? Right, so that was Aberdeen. That was very much a professional, let's just say a professional win, done and dusted, a nice clean sheet. And then Stephen Welsh then contracted a virus, which is a shame for him considering he'd scored. So he had to step out, and in steps Maurice Jens, which was a surprise. We'll stick with Monty for now, and then we'll move on to Hector. But Maurice Jens, so it was nice to see somebody else even getting bloodied in. But did you actually expect him to score up at Ross County, Monty?
We couldn't have scored at probably a better time, given the way the game was flowing. Like, we were in, I wouldn't say we were in trouble, but we were knocking at the door. We needed someone. I didn't realise how big a unit the guy is until I seen him play that game. He's big, he's physical, he's imposing, and with that type of delivery, I think he looks a really, really good player. Some people are nitpicking on his body shape and stuff, and he can be turned easy, but again, same profile as Jota. He's 22, 23? We seem to have found really, really good players at the right age. And if I've got his age right, which I think I have, that's a coaching and a development thing that'll make him a better player. And we do look like a threat from corners. I know we're going to talk about it separately, but delighted to see him score. His goal, we talked about his goal against Kilmarnock, which was something for centre half. But we've got options now at centre half, which is great. And if he's predominantly left-sided, which he is, and him and Carter Vickers can strike up a partnership as good as Carter Vickers and Starfelt, and I know that's one of Hector's,
We'll come to that in a second,
but if they can get that bit more balance as a partnership, then all of a sudden we've got cover. And Welsh, yeah, he's unfortunate, but I still think there's a lot more development in Welsh than when I look at Jens. I think he doesn't need as much work in him as Welsh does to make it. Just, I'd say looking in after a couple of games.
Yeah. Fine, mate. I didn't even have this written down, Hector, but this is Morty saying it. This is an aside. It must be nice for like somebody like Morris James to come into a team, try and find the confidence to like step forward with the ball. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying, but you've got to bed in, etc. Yep. But then know you've got Carter Vickers behind you saying, "Don't worry, I've got your back." Because that was interesting. I was even like that stroll against Kilmarnock. Every time they tried to punt the ball up, he was this marshalling and little after, etc. It must be a real comfort if you're in that Celtic midfield or a Celtic defence to know your last line behind you is so solid as Carter Vickers.
Absolutely. It's the old adage about the spine of the team, isn't it? If you get the spine right, and look at our spine, you've got Hart, Carter Vickers, you've got McGregor, and then you've got either Kyogo or Giacomakis. It's a terrific spine, not even counting the wide players. But I think with Jens, the guy was injured, wasn't he, a bit last season? Then he didn't get back in the team, the French team he was with. So I think with most players, it takes about half a dozen games just to get into the flow of the team. So if anything, I think the guy should improve a fair bit if he starts the next 2 or 3 games. He looked comfortable-ish on the ball. He was at fault for the goal we lost at Ross County, right? Let's not just sugarcoat things, right? He was at fault for that. He also gave away a free kick at the edge of the box that some saved for Joe Hart. Is that
when you said in that tweet, Jens must go?
Aye, exactly. But then again, we go to Rugby Park, which is traditionally a shit place to go. Mm-hmm. And I thought, overall, up against Lafferty, we know Lafferty's many things, but as a player, he's a bit of a pest. He's big and awkward and gangly, isn't he? And elbows and all sorts. I thought Jens did fine. And if he retains the shirt, and he didn't look injured when he was celebrating at full time, did he? He was dancing about with the rest of the players. If he retains his place, I think he should improve a fair bit the next 2 or 3 games. He should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would come to Ralph, but he's either juggling bottles of Hopperberg or throwing balls for Izzy to retrieve.
Izzy's away and Paul's coming now.
Right. So 3-1 away to Ross County. Let me just go through the actual timeline here, Ralph. Kyogo starting the scoring, so I just made a wee note of that because I don't know if you remember the last podcast. I was asking who we thought would be the highest goal scorer, the top goal scorer for Celtic. You have all went for Giacomakis, I believe, and I went for Kyogo. So far, I was first off the block, so that was good to see. So we'll see how that transpires as the season goes on. And then we had Moritz scores from another set piece, no less, Ralph.
The thing about the Ross County game was they weren't going to lie down, they weren't going to defend, even though they've set themselves up in the same way that most teams are going to set themselves up against us. Once we went ahead, they came back. And it was late on, it was a 65-minute change. Change the game a wee bit. And the extra fresh legs, the extra impetus, if you want, is what won the game for us. Before, you'd maybe 2 old boxers just punching each other till one falls down. But now, we're doing it differently. And just with the players for a lot longer this season, pre-season, than he has last time. And he's working and stuff with them. Like you were talking about, just about the moves that are waiting to happen. It's not just that. There's a game plan in place. And he tweaks it if he needs to. And we did that against Ross County. I was listening to it on the radio. And it's right enough, one of the commentators says, there's 5 minutes left or whatever. Celtic are 2-1 up. What will they do with this throw-in? And one of the summarisers turned around and says, they're going to try and score. And we did. Now, that's not what any team at any level is going to defend that 2-1 league. But we didn't. And it paid off. We're different. There's something totally different about the whole approach. And it's not spontaneous, it's planned.
Yeah, you touched on a few things there that remind me of a few things. One was Ange coming out to say, like, a lot of people were saying, like, Abada scored a cracker in that game, curled a cracker in for the third, and a lot of people are coming out with it. A lot of desktop analysts, let's say, came out with the whole reasons why Abada should start over Maeda. But Ange came out and says he's not really concerned about who starts games, because the people who end games are just as important as the people who start games. It's basically a 15, what we're playing now then, that would be 16 players, roughly 15 to 16 players who are going to win you that game. And that's how he's viewing it. Not like that whole 10-minute periods, 20-minute periods. It's no longer get to 80 minutes and try and then try and, as you say, Ralph, try and last the last 10 minutes. Quite interesting.
Well, Hector said that in the last podcast. The pace we play and the intensity we play at, it's 16 men. That's what we need to have. But
it's interesting. See, just an example of that. But you spoke about Ross County, and it was one each, and then obviously the subs, and we got 2 fairly late goals. But probably a better example was Kilmarnock at the weekend. 3-0 up, game's over at half time. Early part of the second half, game sort of dies a death.
Yep.
3 subs are made, and suddenly it's as if a switch is turned, and bang, the whole energy, the dynamics of the team completely changed when these guys are desperate to come on, full of energy, and the whole team lifted for the last 25 minutes or so. And I think when Ange was talking last season, it was hard for some of us to really appreciate, because we weren't used to his style of play. It's taken us a bit of time to get used to this 100 mile an hour stuff. But I think you can see the fruits of it a wee bit now. We're having almost like-for-like replacements in the key areas of the team. Now, so you take off 2 white guys, bring on 2 of similar-ish ability, slightly different attributes, similar-ish ability, with high energy, or a midfielder with high energy, or a fullback with high energy, and it just keeps that level where he wants it to be. And you can see it domestically, at least so far in the first 2 or 3 games.
Yeah. In the opposition, thinking, they're going to play, and then of course they're getting battered again after being battered and beaten at 70 minutes. They're getting battered again. Domestically, like you say, that will get us results. But in Europe, that's going to make a difference.
And there's interesting parallel to that, Ralph, that squad-wise and squad depth-wise is where there's a real telling difference. And domestically, it would set us and probably our nearest challengers apart from the rest. Our team won't have the sort of depth of squad to bring on 3 or 4 people, 65, 70 minutes in, who would be able to push them on a little bit. We definitely do. Our nearest challengers probably have a similar type of level of impact from their bench. So I think injuries and keeping players fit is going to play a critical role as well in maintaining, I think, the level of domestic performance. But the European thing that you just touched upon, Ralph, we now are in a scenario that we can bring people on when typically we would have tailed off. If you look over our history in the Champions League as well, the amount of goals we lost late in games, because we were just too tired. We've been chasing the ball for 65-70% of a game. We won't face that dip in energy. What we'll face is a different challenge because the system we're going to play is going to be attacking. So I don't think it's going to be just as mad as Rodgers' first season and us going out and getting absolutely horsed. But we're going to be open against really good teams, but we're going to be going there with no fear. So.
The both teams to score odds will be very short, I would imagine, Monty, you know what I mean?
No matter who's playing, yeah.
But one thing I want to highlight with you, Ralph, was Hector mentioned before, Joe Hart had a great save in that game to actually basically made sure we kept the momentum. But right after that save, he then tried to release the ball and he raced basically out through the Celtic box and pushed a Ross County player out the way with such enthusiasm. But I just thought it was a nice physical touch that maybe we hadn't seen for a wee while. No, that whole a bit of presence from our players. The dark arts, I think you used to call it.
Yeah, the goalie should do that. A corner ball, he should be putting his knee in the back of the forward. That's how it works.
Old school, Ralph. Old school.
That's how football is. The goalkeeper should intimidate the forwards. And when he's not doing it, the 2 centre-halves should be doing it. How it is. It's a physical game. Simple as that. It's psychological. It's everything. That's the beauty of football. Yeah. Sometimes it's about intimidating. Sometimes just about kicking them. Other times it's about being more skillful.
You remind me, Ralph, of that famous clip, that Mike Bassett, England manager, halftime team talk when they're 2-0 down against Mexico.
No.
No, I'll send it on. You've kind of you've summarised his halftime team talk with a few less expletives.
Ralph Bassett.
You're just making me think of that line, who is Benson and Hedges? Remember, he promotes somebody for the third and fourth division because he actually wrote it on the back of a fag packet. But yeah, right, Monty, to you also, right, but that Ross County game, we're starting to see like kind of presences emerge. We're starting to see players emerging at like the top of their form already. And one of those unsung heroes, for want of a better phrase, Greg Taylor, has been absolutely buzzing. So I was making a joke during the week. He's been flying ever since he got engaged. His form's been great ever since he got engaged. Do you think he's needing the win bonuses to pay for a big wedding during the summer? He's
stacking up something. Though I think it was a bit lousy of him to go on the non-alcoholic beer and fill Burnaby full of Jack Daniels on a Sunday night.
You drive me.
He's been exceptional. And I gotta admit, I thought he would be a backup to, I thought we would sign a left back of a similar quality to Juranovic, but it's obviously, the guy obviously loves the system. He obviously is very popular as well. You hear some of the other players talk about him. I think Postecoglou's talked about how much the guy has took on and how much he wants to learn as well. And I thought Taylor was actually a lot older than he is as well. So age profile, Taylor's still relatively young.
Yeah.
So, was he 24, 25?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Age profile wise and everything about him, and the system works for him. Like he's effectively playing like he's almost got a free role.
24, and he was born on the same day as me. Well done. There you go. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we've got in common. The same day of birth.
That freedom he has, and we talked about at the start that the shape of a Postecoglou player, the physicality, basically small, extremely mobile, nimble players to fit that system. Taylor's that. He's that by natural design, and he looks a lot more technically capable than I ever thought he was. So no.
Yeah, but we're also just to get a wee bit of balance. We're praising the impact of the subs coming in, like high tempo. But that's your left back at the end of the game, still chasing down, still creating that final chance for the goal. So really impressive. But talking about creating chances, Hector, you and I are the same age. Jota had 3 assists in the one game. First time I've ever seen anyone claim the ball for 3 assists. Can you remember any time a Celtic player creating 3 assists? Has it ever been a thing?
I probably never even thought about it. Henrik.
And that was another quiz question. I only found out the other day. Henrik's name is not Henrik. Did everyone know that? Or was it just me? Henrik Larsson's first name is not Henrik.
Henke?
Edward.
That's his middle name, no?
Edward Henrik. Henrik's his middle name. I was shocked to my core the other day because I was doing a quiz thing, and it was all about my first name is not my real name, like Paul McCartney's first name is no Paul. That idea.
Is it Henrik?
It's Edward. There's another. But there you go. So Henrik Larsson, Edward Larsson's not going to be quite the same ring to it. But anyway, Jota's 3 assists. So after that goal at Aberdeen, we'll come to Killie in a minute. But then 3 assists up at Ross County, which, as Hector you've mentioned, usually a really tough place to find space.
He's still, we've mentioned Jota 3 games into the season, and it's a team game, blah blah blah. But he's easily a standout player after the 3 games. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? We all know that. But we can only base it on what we've seen so far. He's been first class, full of energy, but he just looks happy. It might sound daft, but he just looks really happy. Even the game at the weekend, he did the post-match interview, didn't he, with Greg Taylor? And all the guy did was praise Greg Taylor. How good a fucking teammate's that? Yeah. Right? You scored a 25-yard on the top bin, probably set another one up, I can't remember. And all he's done is basically praise Greg Taylor. And Taylor was actually starting to blush with embarrassment, wasn't he?
It's like Nakamura and Telfer all over again, isn't it?
Telfer was one of your unsung heroes, wasn't he?
He's a lovely man, and he could fair drink a pint in one go, I'll tell you that. He did that in my company. But yeah, Jota, as you say, But it was also, it was a tough game to, like, some hard tackles in that Ross County game. They actually had to ride that. The goal is set up for Kyogo. The guy almost went right through him just before it. He gets up, takes the ball, gives it, goes, dribbles. The guy tries to go through him also in the penalty box. Still kind of rides that tackle. So
Malky Mackay's teams, right? We beat them 5 or 6-0 at the end of last season at Celtic Park. They got 1 sent off. He should have been sent off earlier on in the first half, and I think he should have got 2. That's Malky Mackay's teams, right? They can play a bit, but they put the boot in.
Yeah, but I just mean that in respect to, like, a lot, especially, forgive me if this sounds stereotypical, but like, say a lot of players coming into the Scottish League suddenly finding the physicality of it a wee bit much, you know what I mean, like a wee bit harsh. Why is this guy being allowed to tackle me like this, referee? Whereas Jota's just riding the tackles, skipping it. He's got the brains to avoid the tackles when he needs to, but he's also getting up whenever he does get caught. He's not just hiding or disappearing or wanting to come off. So again, he's managing to face all the possible issues. So it's quite impressive. Right, before we come to the Kilmarnock game, that was the first 2 games out of the way, right? 6 points. So then we had a wee break because we were facing Kilmarnock on the Sunday. So I'm going to come to you, Hector Bandido.
Yes.
Because you then tweeted out that you were going to go on a wee adventure. A lot of people know you from your adventures up in the Highlands and the Islands, but this time you were heading to the Southlands. You're heading out to see the Celtic B versus Gretna, I believe.
About half a mile from the border. We've done it Saturday and to see Celtic B play at Gretna's ground, and Gretna FC 2008, I'll have you know, liquidated, renamed FC 2008. It's all over their website, over their match programme, literature, tells you all about it. So at least they did it the sort of right way. Astro pitch, big pitch. Apparently it's the same dimensions as Hampden, which really surprised me. Wasn't true what, but it really surprised me. 30 degrees. It was absolutely roasting down there. So Celtic B lost a goal in the first minute, which apparently has happened 2 or 3 times this season already. But then as the game went on, 20 minutes, 25. Celtic B are full-time pros, right? And they're playing against, other than playing against Rangers being Heartsby, it might be East Kilbride. Maybe one other Lowland League team I think went full-time. The rest are part-time. So the fitness is a big thing. You can see that. Lawal was playing centre-half, who's obviously was with the first team during pre-season games, played 2 or 3 times. Rocco Vata was there.
Yeah, that's right. You're wanting to see him. How was he?
A few others. Well, Vata got injured with about 20 to go. He kind of got hurt in a challenge, but after the game he seemed to be walking about okay. Plays wide left, but he comes in. Dare I say it? Crikey. Right, okay. He plays wide left, but he's not really a winger. He's more a forward, if that makes sense. So he can get past a player on the left, cut in. He looks like a young Jota to me.
I thought you were going to say Andy Tom there.
A young Jota to me. He just looks like a football player. I don't want that to sound daft. Of course he plays with Celtic B, but he just looks like a player. So 16, attitude, takes a lot of things to make it, but he looks a player. Lawal shouldn't be playing with the B team. Lawal's coasting. He should go to a team he's got to defend. Send him on loan to somebody like a St Mirren. He'll have to learn how to defend for a season. Right now, he's under no pressure. He's walking about with a cigar out. I don't know how that helps him progress into the first team. There was no other real standouts, to be fair. And a lot of that was just the weather and the pitch, a dry Astro pitch. So 4-1 they won. I think the 2 late goals. I'd have to go and see him a couple more times to make a judgment in 2 or 3 others. But Vata was the one for me. Sorry, a boy on right wing, just started playing right wing. His name's Bruno. Apparently he's only been playing for a few seasons. He was impressive in the right wing, but he was cutting in as well. Now, like Anches, the 3 forwards cutting in and interplay. He was doing that as well. The coaching bench, McManus and Darnell Day was with him. I said to you guys before the podcast, but it was a day that was doing most of the instructions. So it's interesting, you go and see these games and you go, all right, wasn't expecting that. He was doing most of the instructions. Celtic TV was there. The preparation was all, as you'd expect, top notch in terms of the warm-ups and all that. So yeah, it was interesting. But the formation's the same as the first team. The fullbacks try to go inverted. or move. So I think the template is McManus was there. I think we spoke about this as a group the last podcast. McManus was working with Ange last season. He's moved him down to run the B team. I assume with the template Ange has created at the first team level, it will probably take McManus with these guys maybe a few more weeks, like it took Ange with the team to invoke it. But you can see the similarities already. Without that touch of quality, it's not the first team. It's young guys, 16, 17, 18-year-old pretty much playing. So yeah, I'd recommend it, folks. By the way, go and give them a wee watch. Go and have a wee look at them and see who catches your eye.
How was the crowd? What was a decent turnout?
Maybe several hundred, maybe 400, maybe. Couple. It was mainly locals. I seen Dumfries Celtic supporters, big flag, and Creetown down the Solway coast. They had a big flag behind the goal. But their main stand was packed. A bar, nice wee bar before the game, lovely jubbly. Did a match programme as well, which was a nice wee touch.
Was the bar selling Spadetown Lager, Lurgan's #1 lager?
Interestingly enough, Desi, I did inquire about that, and I hate to say it, they haven't been contacted by a certain entrepreneur from over the Irish Sea.
Well, you never know. You never know what might happen.
I'd certainly relay those gratuitous thoughts from Gretna AFC onto the relevant body and see if they could make the contact. I'm sure a deal can be done around the edges. And are available.
I was going to say, there's one thing that did surprise me, right? And it was more about with the B team, and it's all about preparing, hopefully one or two a season, or whoever can progress into the first team squad, right? That's the intention of it. What surprised me is that Celtic's B team play their home games on Airdrie's 4G pitch. And I think to myself, why are they not on a grass pitch, the same as the first team are? How is that preparing them to go and play week in, week out on a pristine grass surface? So that was just something I just thought it didn't make sense to me. I thought, fine, Rangers are playing at Dumbarton's, they play their home games at Dumbarton's ground. That's a grass pitch down there. I just didn't understand that. There must have been more options than what they're suddenly taking in Airdrie, so that surprised me.
And this is the last question. You probably never noticed because you probably just flung your card behind the bar knowing what you're like. But how were the sensible prices? Was it like a £5 a pint, £4 a pint, rather than the crazy £3.13 prices style we get at Celtic Park?
It wasn't. They weren't on draft, Eddie, so it's all bottles and cans. But it was like, no, it was nothing daft. It was £2.53 a beer? Which I know is a good markup, but still it's not your daft prices, right? It was, by the way, the pies as well. There's the Scottish pies, but see the steak pies, they were like Desperate Dan pies. Well worth a visit just for the Desperate Dan pie.
Very good, yeah. And if anyone's listening and is interested in the old football pies, quality standards, David Stoker on Twitter is your man. He goes to it seems he goes to a different football game every night, but he always has a half-time pie report and bring me. Some of them are quite entertaining. So that was good. So again, if anyone's listening, if anybody goes to watch the B team, and we should also give a shout out, I suppose, to the Celtic women who managed to gub Hibs 9-0 already this season. So good luck to them. And if anybody goes to watch the women's team, it'd be interesting to get some feedback from that. So that'll be interesting to see if anyone goes to see them. And if you go again, Hector, let us know how it goes. But so that was a Saturday. So you went in there on a Saturday because it was a nice warm weekend. And that brings us to the Sunday then, Monty. Kilmarnock, traditionally a place where we either have a great day or a frustrating day. I'm thinking back to the Steve Clark day. So 5-0 away, a beautiful, warm, sunny, mad, hot day on a slow pitch with Derek McInnes's sad wee face to look at. Did you enjoy that result at all?
I think the performance, the fact that we got a goal so early was always helpful. But the performance was just something else to behold because I know you look at the Livy game last season, we got beat. Last time we got beat, and then we figured out that it doesn't matter. The pitch is just another variable. And it was nice to hear Ange talk about the fact we just go here, play our football, just get the job done. So I think the bogeyman of the plastic pitch, touch wood, appears to be leaving us. Performance-wise, we were just dominant. And it was made all the sweeter for watching McInnes's grating face on the sideline, and then listening to him complain afterwards that actually we were shite and they gave us those goals. But that's his form. And I actually thought, not disrespectful, it's just a wee bit cheap, I think, for an opposition manager to say that. He had to do it, obviously. He doesn't want his players psychologically damaged by the fact that they get ragdolled, but give a wee bit of credit. Celtic were really...
He's maybe hoping to get invited onto a Rangers fans podcast to discuss it.
Or
like
alternatively get invited on to commentate on a Rangers Champions League qualifier as a non-neutral character. I mean, I'm fine with it. McInnes is what he is. And that sourpuss sort of, begrudging credit at the end of the game, I don't think he's all that. I think they ham it up a wee bit. But performance-wise, Taylor, we talk about Taylor. Taylor's pass for the first goal was top drawer. Like nothing, it is nothing. And you got to presume that was worked on, because from the minute he took his first touch, he knew exactly what he was doing. And he passed that ball around the corner. He put perfect weight on it. And again, grating bastards in commentary trying to say, well, maybe the plastic pitch helped him. No, we were really good.
See if you get a chance again. You probably noticed, but just in case, I watched that again earlier before the podcast. I go, there's a beautiful drop of the shoulder right before it, and Kyle Lafferty basically gets sent down Kilmarnock High Street to the shop. It's unbelievable. I mean, this is your left back. And again, if he'd have lost the ball there, in olden days we'd have been right in trouble, so to speak. But it's good to see he's got the confidence to do
Desi, that's a great point, that, because how often do we see a defender gives it to player in advance, and 9 times out of 10 the player, lazy option, just bounces it. They bounce it back. The better players, it's the awareness where they know they glance around the shoulder before the ball comes to them. They know they've got 10 yards. They can turn. And with him turning into space, it totally changed the dynamics. That's what created the goal. But 9 times out of 10, they bounce it back to the centre half. And it's like, so that's a great point, that, actually. And more of that, please.
Exactly right. So Ralph, I'll come to you. I'll ask you first. What goal do you think was the best? Right, I'll give you the slick passes as Monty just highlighted there, and the finish, because Maeda's pass was a cracker too. Lovely run first. A first touch. I'm loving this note. The Hatate factor. Don't even stop the ball. David Turnbull could take a few wee notes here. Don't stop the ball. Just touch it. Get it and give it. Jota's pile driver, which we can come on to these in detail soon, but what one do you think is the best? Slick passes and Kyogo's finish, Jota's pile driver, Maurice's overhead kick, Giacomakis' overhead nutmeg, or Carol Starfeld's run to beat 10 blades of plastic grass and to send the ball finally over a sprawling keeper from yet another set piece.
But that's the point. We're sitting there now talking about which was the best goal, because we don't score bad goals. Everything we're doing seems to be, right, here's what we're going to do, that's where it's going to end up. If I were to pick one out of that game, it would probably be Jota's pile driver, simply because I got a clip of the radio afterwards saying, oh, come on, the goalie flung it in the net.
Rob McLean.
Right, it doesn't matter. We're scoring goals for long range, we're scoring goals for open play, we're scoring goals for corner kicks. We're scoring goals. I think our top scorers on 2. And we've scored 10 goals in 3 games. It's phenomenal. It's something that we've always wanted to see. I hesitate to say again, because even under O'Neill, Lawson was the primary scorer, Harrison was just behind him, and everybody else kind of chipped in. Now, it's whoever has the ball in front of the goal that takes a shot, and that's it. It's a different way of doing things. So yeah, I'd go for Jota's because it was spectacular, but I certainly, with Kyogo's finish on the first one, you can see him adjust his balance to what the goalkeeper was doing, and
But also, Ralph, sorry to interrupt you, but this ties in with something you've been saying for years, right? Regards Celtic finishing, hitting the ball right at the goalkeeper. Yeah. Remember, but then, so Kyogo's goals, his 2 goals this season, both of them have been inside the keeper, rather than straight at the keeper or across the keeper. He's been making the keeper go, the keeper's shifting his weight one way, and Kyogo's actually diverted the ball the other way into the near post, like surprised the keeper on purpose. And it's really, again, it's quite interesting. You kind of break the actual execution of the goals then.
To go back to something that Monty said in the podcast, what would I have been if I was playing, or what was I? I wasn't a target man, I was a poacher. And what I used to do...
What about the football? That's just since you moved into Stoke. You know what I mean? Since you've been hanging about the Alton Towers River, don't try and kid anybody on here.
You'd be watching the goalkeeper. If he was... You'd watch his face, you'd watch his balance, and you would put the ball where he couldn't get it. Which is why I harped on about it for years and years. There's the goals, aim in the middle, which is where the goalie usually is. Don't see what he's doing. I'll give you the best example I could see of one that I actually got up in the pub and took the paces with him, was Gary Hooper against Spartak Moscow. He was running through and he adjusted his pace because the goalkeeper was coming towards him. And I knew exactly where I would have put the ball, and he did it as well, which makes me as good as him. But it's because you've seen where the goalie was gone and you knew what you had to do. Oh, all right, if I'd have done it, it would have ended up in the crowd. But I could see, measure your pace, aim, and as the goalie kind of dithers, put it hard and low to the side of him where his balance isn't. That's why I kept moaning about hitting the ball straight at the keeper. Yeah. It doesn't work.
So there you go, listeners. Conclusive proof that mixed fruit Copperbird gets you drunk quicker than 2 cans of Carling. Right, Hector, no, Ralph did say an interesting point there, that it doesn't matter who's in front of goal, the ball's going in the net. But we don't actually need people to be in front of the goal. They can have their back to goal these days. 2 goals, 2 overhead kicks, and saying one game we'll get 3 assists from the one guy, and now we'll get 2 overhead kicks.
When you asked Ralph the question, and I probably changed my mind about 3 times when I thought back about the goals, which one was the best. I thought the first goal was the best when you asked the question. Then I thought, well, hold on a minute. Jota's pile driver, how he hit that ball, and when he got it, it wasn't at pace. He actually ran onto the ball to create the pace. Then I thought, well, hold on, Big Jens, back to goal, centre half, touches it up and swivel kicks it, and then Giacomakis with his. But I think the first goal was
Whoa, let's just pause it there. You've not even get the humility to herald Carol Starfelt, that guy you lambasted for a full season. You can't even celebrate the guy's goal.
You want me to give him credit for scoring for a yard out. And he missed the first one. You want to talk about Carl Starfelt scoring a goal.
You remember Sunday, even Bernat, folks, and Sunday, Starfelt's first touch, I think he made an arse of it. Hector was right on the Twitter. There he is.
No, I let the first one go. It's the second one, I just went, fuck. His first one was out for a throw-in, wasn't it? His second one, he almost gave them a counter-attack to run through. Listen, I'm not going to focus on negatives, Desi. I'm going to focus on positives. First goal was the best as a team. Probably the best overall. But back to the point, the goals were creating the chances, and in fact, I've got a bonus pick with Jota before half-time.
Oh, yep.
Right, so these are the things in the games where you might only get that one chance. And I'm trying not to be picky, but you picked up on it as well. He's on the right-hand side, he squares it across goal, it's a tap-in for Maeda, and he's shot. So, there is still a bit of room for improvement there, but that's been picky. But overall, it's hard to...
Again, I'm like, sorry, right, because again, even like the Aberdeen game, Ange basically lambasted them. He scored that great goal against Aberdeen, and people are saying, what about Jota? And Ange went, yeah, but don't forget, he was one of the guys that were basically no playing to the game plan in the first half. So he's obviously, and I saw Ange storming down tunnel just where I sit in the comfy seats.
Where is it you sit, Desi?
I just sat and see where the big cushions with the barber, the tartan
with the tartan shawl,
and the prawn sandwiches and the Spake Town lager on tap. That's just where I am.
That's it. You next to your new chairman, Peter Law? Do you sit next to your new chairman?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for Ralph to confirm it in the diary, and then we'll see. But yeah, no, so that was interesting that he'd already been kind of lambasted. So I would imagine, even after that Kilmarnock game, the words would have been said, and Jota will make sure. And just for anybody listening who doesn't follow the Twitter, I made the point that on Match of the Day, Phil Foden had been through with Man City and took a shot at the keeper, and Erling Haaland was standing in the middle of the 6-yard box screaming for the ball, and Foden took a shot and the keeper saved it and it went wide, and they asked Guardiola after that, what do you think about that? And Guardiola turned around and says, Foden and the rest of the team now must realise Haaland will always be in the middle of the goal. Before we had a false nine, or we didn't have a good enough striker that would always be in the correct position. And that's what Celtic have got. We've got, if it's not a centre forward there, it'll be Maeda or Jota coming in. So again, whoever's coming in, driving in, they just need to remember. And as you say, Hector, that could be a difference between winning at Ibrox or no, or winning a tight game up at Pittodrie, and these sort of things. So it'd be good if we just keep that in mind. But, so, yeah, well, I would go for Starfelt's goal, right? And I'm not saying it just to wind you up. I'm saying it for the sheer joy. Right, like, that was like, the sheer team joy at that goal. You see Jota. Jota's got his head in his hand. Jota's probably had his head in his hands a bit like Hector probably did at the same time. But Jota's put over the moon for him. Even Ange, he turns into the bench and goes, I can't believe it. Everybody's celebrating. And it's that kind of camaraderie, the team effort. That's a lovely thing to see.
Can we talk about missing the first chance?
No, it was lulling them into a sense of false security, obviously. You know what I mean?
And the added beauty is it was Kel Lafferty who didn't let him go.
So yeah, but that was again. So that's we went to two difficult places, Ross County and Kilmarnock, on a Sunday. Both different circumstances, but especially Kilmarnock, the really hot day. It's hard to sometimes get motivated and get going. But as Monty says, a quick early goal and suddenly we'd hit the ground running. And Ange has already said that too, as well as having the engine to keep going to the end of the game, i.e. the whole we keep going, we don't stop. It's that we start immediately now. So it could be very interesting. Right, so that's us done the look past. So top of the league looking down on the Rangers, which is a lovely thing. But looking ahead, right, so we've got Hearts on Sunday. Hector, do you see I think they're doing quite well as far as I'm aware. Hearts are doing quite well. I think they're, are they in Europe, was it tonight?
They lost 2-1 away to Zurich.
Is that the
first leg? They were 1-0 up. I caught the first half. They lost 2-1. I think they've got 7 points, haven't they? They should have 9. Remember, Hibs scored with the last kick of the game at Easter Road for a draw.
Oh, that's right.
Hearts are Hearts with Wilson, right? You know what they're going to do. They get the game stopped. They're going to come and just try and frustrate their life out. It was time waste in the first minute. Craig Gordon will time waste. He'll move the ball for taking a goal kick for one side. It'll take him 30 seconds to move to the other side of the 6-yard box. So I think the Hearts in particular, if you can score early against them, and I know you can say that with most teams, but especially like the Hearts, because they struggle to change their game plan. If you can score early against them, change it. I've got no reason why we can't go and stick 3 or 4 past them this weekend. Honestly, the way we're playing, 60,000 sellout. We're getting a good break between games early in the season. I think the players are so fresh and they're so motivated and positive. I'd expect us to win by 3 or 4 goals if we play how we can play this weekend.
Monty, do you see any squad changes? Do you see any changes in the lineups?
I think Starfelt will start, actually. I think he'll start him, get some game time into him. He had a decent half. Did look a wee bit rusty, give the ball away a couple of times, but he hasn't played. Outside of that, I don't know. Hatari got that injury. We haven't seen him since he got those couple of knocks in the first game. So I'd expect him to get some sort of game time. I don't even think he's been on the bench the last 2 years.
No.
Yeah. So I'd expect to see him play some part. But outside of that, I always worry about the fact that we play McGregor every week.
Yeah.
I'd love to see us, but not in a game like Hearts is probably not the game. Maybe the cup games start and give him a wee bit of a break. But then he's that type of player who wants that momentum. That's why he can play 55 games, 60 games a season.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't.
If you would take him off, he'd probably just write another book. Apparently, he's wrote a book. That's what he does in his spare time.
Big Paul Cuddihy might have something to say about who wrote it. But no, I think outside of that, I wouldn't mind seeing Seegers getting a game shortly as well. But again,
do you think it would help? Because we always talk about match fitness, right? And I know we can see the importance after 60 minutes bringing 3 or 4 players on, but I'm thinking about a good 60 minutes in the tank, especially a lot of games coming up. Maybe mixing it up a wee bit up front, out wide, maybe starting in a Bad or a Giakoumakis to get that 60 minutes into their legs. I'm thinking out loud, because we're going to be playing Champions League pretty soon. We'll want guys, that 15, 16 at their maximum, being ready for that,
No, again, it's that notion of where the energy and where the high octane goes, and it typically is the forward players, Hector. So, Abad has done nothing wrong. When he's come in, he's looked lively, he's been effective, he's scored, he's having a go. He's everything that he was last season, so he probably is deserving of a start. Maeda's effectiveness is the see. So we have that abundance of riches. The midfield hurt us a little bit last year when we were low on numbers. It seemed delusional. We kind of blew a wee bit of steam out towards the tail end of the season. But in there, Turnbull, I think Turnbull's a starter now ahead of Hattari. He's been that solid since he got the jersey.
Do you think so?
I'm
trying to keep this positive, but I really think he's failing the audition so far. He's the one player. He's the one player that's failing the audition. It's just purely. He's Alan Thompson. As much as I love Alan Thompson, he's 3 touches. Get it, stop it, give it. Whereas Hattati does not even stop the ball. If you watch Hattati, he lets the ball roll and then passes it, and that's clinical, I think, for Ange Ball to work.
But I think at the minute, well, obviously Hattari's not, you wouldn't start him coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
But I think between the two of them, I didn't think, by the way, I said at the start of last week, I didn't think Campbell was the right type of player for Postecoglou, physically and everything else, to your point, 2 or 3 touches. But I think he's come on massively, and he was really, really important for us up until he got injured last year. And he's got a goal in him. Hattari spanked those 2 or 3 last year. Has he scored since?
No, because it was summer.
No, but I mean...
No, again, when these are like good complaints for him. We're not lambasting for. We're just saying it would be nice to bring him out. And again, it's been get Hattati another 20 minutes and
get him.
Moy, they've gave Moy a few 15-minute showings, so maybe give him 25 minutes. Yeah. I mean, I know Hector's waiting to see him flourish, that kind of idea. And Ralph, are you coming up for Sunday's game?
Yeah, I'll be up on Sunday, and if Hattati's fit, I'd be surprised if he didn't start, because you can actually name the 11 that's going to start if they're all fit. It's what happens during the game that determines who comes on and who goes off. He's going to start, if he can, he'll start with McGregor, O'Reilly and Hattati in every game. To go back to Starfelt being fit, he'll start with Starfelt ahead of the other 2, alongside Carter Vickers.
Could you drop Jens after scoring 2 goals, but that set piece threat?
If he listens to this podcast, he'll listen to Hector, he'll start him in.
So he's starting Stephen Welsh. He's starting Stephen Welsh and Dan O'Day.
Is that not a good thing? See the fact we've just mentioned Stephen Welsh, who did nothing wrong. Welsh, right? Welsh was probably the best player on the pitch against Aberdeen overall. Then the boy gets a wee injury. Jens gets his chance to come in. 2 goals in 2 games. I know he's had to stop goals rather than score them. Scored them's a bonus, right? But he's probably been better than probably Mary thought, just coming in. And then Starfelt, because he gets a chance to come on and gets half an hour. So your 4 centre-halves are actually getting game time. So it's probably not a bad thing.
Are we dropping Carter Vickers because they can't score goals? Is that what we're saying? Carter Vickers must go unless they can score a goal.
He scored a beauty at Ibrox, Desi, that ultimately won his league, didn't he?
Yeah, that was last year. As Monty said, we're moving forward. I mean, Hattati's goals against Hearts mean nothing. We're moving on.
Yeah.
I think what's great about it, you get back 12 months and we could have probably picked a starting 8, then it was a worry. Now it's a good debate about, we've got 16, 17, 18 players there. We could probably pick about 8, but the other 8 or 9, there's not much between them. They've all got their own probably a little bit of added skill. One direction, one's got a little bit more pace, one's got more balance, one can move the ball quicker. But it's all good players now. That's a great position to be in.
I think Ralph made a good point. It depends what happens in the game. And you made a good point. You get an early goal, that could really open him up, because you notice it's going to be the hacking midfield of Hearts are going to turn up, and it depends what referee turns up. I mean, how many times are they going to get warned to watch it before the first Celtic guy gets booked for the first tackle? McGregor gets booked for the first tackle, that's the usual. So again, but hopefully we're 2-0 up by that point.
Now that you mention it, it reminded me of something I seen during the game against Kilmarnock, was Ange talking to John Beaton and joking with him and pointing stuff out to him. And I'm not entirely sure that one of the Kilmarnock boys didn't get booked on account of the relationship that Ange had developed with John Beaton. I call it a relationship, it's maybe the wrong word. But he was talking to him and he was winning him over. And that's the kind of management thing. Where you get into somebody's head and you make them think the way you're thinking, just with a little line here, a little line there. That if we're to watch stuff, watch the interaction between the fourth official and our bench. Because I thought that was significant. Because like, if I'm stood next to John Beaton, I'm going to whack him.
Oh. Don't make me need to mute this. Right, before I'm going to do a wee bit of jumping forward then coming back here, right? Right, so 2 weeks of the window left, Monty. We've been closely linked today with, forgive me about my pronunciation as normal, folks, Sead Haksabanovic, a Celtic transfer target from Rubin Kazan, an attacker, possibly a kind of left winger stroke modern forward idea. So do you think there's a good chance we bring somebody in? And on the back of that, there's been lots of kind of sub-rumours or suspicions that also means that someone in the Celtic forward line, or one of the forward options, i.e. Abada, could soon be exiting Celtic Park.
On the first bit, I do think if there's a deal to be done there and it's at the right price, we'll sign him. We obviously were interested in him as an option in case Jota did come. Don't know an awful lot about him other than what I've read in the last few days. But he seems decent. He's got a decent pedigree and was effective over there. I think it probably means more that, you know, like when I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier today, Maggie Johnson hasn't gone yet, has he?
No, nobody's gone yet.
Nobody's gone yet. I think what you're getting here now is the last lineup of all the pieces on the board. This guy comes in, Johnson is definitely going on loan, and it'll probably be a loan with an option to buy. He's not going to make it at Celtic. Full stop.
Aberdeen, Hector, do you think? Aberdeen for Mikey Johnson?
The boy's got ability. He just needs to go and get a chance to get a run of games without injury and hopefully build his confidence up. He's certainly got talent.
But the counter to that then, I think he would go and not come back, is if he goes and comes on to a game and plays, then it's clever from the point of view of managing assets, because now you could potentially sell an Abada. Or, I mean, let's be honest, the most attractive option most likely for the Premier League or Spain or Italy is going to be Jota. Very, very rapidly followed after that by Kyogo. And then from that, you've got another layer there of the likes of Juranovic, Carter Vickers. We've got a really good nucleus of assets now if you want to get into monetary terms. So having a backup plan there, it makes perfect sense for that type of player. But I can't see, why would you want to leave? Champions League football coming up. You're playing a brand and a style of football that you're part of, especially for that nucleus of 18 players. You know you're going to get a ton of game time. And it suits your, now, yeah, as Hector's waving the show me the money sort of card on the camera there, if it's down to money, again, you know.
You've got Abada's friend Beaton left, hasn't he? He's already publicly kind of cited. I'm not saying I've been told anything, but that seems to be the undercurrent that it's going to be Abada could be the one going.
But would it not be more of a surprise if their players weren't linked? Be getting bought by other teams. That'd be a bigger surprise. Surely it's a credit to the job Ange's done, the development that's been done, the way these guys are progressing, that we're going to expect to get 2 or 3 players. I mean, Juranovic's agent, I think, has been hawking him all over Europe this summer, right? Okay, that's the Giacomakis has been linked this week. Jota is always in getting linked to other teams. So Turnbull, it wouldn't be a surprise if there's 2 or 3 bids come in. I think a lot of it's succession planning, which is a good thing to do. I think what's happened with this guy, you're right, Monty, we were interested in him because we weren't sure if Jota was going to sign for definite, right? But I think what's happened with the Russian teams and obviously the Ukraine and everything, there's no lot of cash there now. So you get a chance to maybe a gift horse happens against Sterling. A gift horse is Sterling's in the mouth. It might have cost us £5-6 million 2 or 3 months ago. Now we might get him for half that price. He's 23. My God. Sometimes things just happen. You go, I've got to take this opportunity.
And the Ruben Kazan chairman or one of the senior guys basically came out and said, this is a fire sale right now. We're in trouble. We don't have money. We've got liabilities. We can't play these players. We've been shafted by FIFA and UEFA, and I believe they have. But you take advantage of that, no different than any business that's in trouble. You can pick up assets on the cheap. So you feel for them, seem like a decent football club, but that's football, it's life. So you can get it. Great.
So cards on the table, yes or no, do you think any of the 16 squad, the top 16 squad, will depart before the window?
I do, yeah. And I think it'll be a Scots player. Somebody that Ange hasn't played, hasn't bought. Because Ange's main thing has been, right, this is who we are, this is where we are. And he kind of susses out whether or not they want to play for Celtic. Now, admittedly, the Scots players want to play for Celtic, that's why they're there. But they are maybe more susceptible to the money that your Kieran Tierney's, your Virgil van Dijk's, etc. are making in England. Whereas for the guys that Ange's brought in, he's given them a window, he's given them an opportunity. And the Giacomakis thing, from what I hear, was he turned it down. He isn't interested.
Want to go? Yeah. Why would you?
I'm just enjoying watching Hector. I'm just enjoying watching Hector. I can almost physically see his mind working, trying to guesstimate which Scottish player Ralph is talking about.
And it's got to be for a good transfer fee, right? And the only one that would go for a good transfer fee is Callum McGregor. He ain't going anywhere.
Have we, Carthy, somebody? Have we
Scottish
a good transfer fee?
Yeah, well,
there's an obvious.
I think somebody will go. I've got that underlying feeling.
Name names.
I'm not naming, but
off the fence caller.
If I was to go into my bet 365 account tomorrow, it would be a badder. Right, so I'll say it now, a badder's my underlying suspicion.
David Turnbull. I think we'll sell David Turnbull.
Same player.
No, but interesting, right? So again, this is just the
fact because he's had a test.
Who?
So,
he's not had a testimonial.
He might just
Jimmy Forrest.
He's just signed a 4-year deal. That was clearly his testimonial package. Now,
2 years.
He got a 4-year deal. That's his testimonial wage. I mean, it's the same as McCaffrey got a 4-year deal to pay him 2 years' wages in our 4 year. It's the same. It's the same principle. It's just creative accountancy.
No, so you're James Forrest. You've got 2 years left. You're going to get a testimonial. You're still part of a setup. Why would you leave?
Well, right, okay. Let's see. We can come back. We can come back to that. We'll come back to that because we're going to probably be out for the next few weeks, but we're going to come back literally, possibly for an emergency podcast next week, because on August the 25th, starting at UK 5 PM time, somewhere over in Istanbul, is the Champions League draw. You may not be aware of this, guys, because we've not played any qualifiers this season. You may be wondering what's happened, but I know, Hector, you're wanting us to consider a few scenarios and come up with your dream ties, right, your dream draw, and your practical draw.
So, gentlemen, I'll put it.
The tactics board looks very, very complex there with the various.
It's a mirror.
I'll put it to you, gentlemen. Right. So first of all, let's just everybody on the call. Let's go through. So there's 4 pots. On pot 1, Madrid, Frankfurt, Man City, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, PSG, Porto, and Ajax. That's pot 1. So we're going to get one of those dastardly dudes. Pot 2, which is possibly stronger than pot 1. Liverpool, Chelsea, Barcelona, fuck's sake, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla, RB Leipzig or Spurs, one of those. And finally in pot 3, we're going to get one of Dortmund, Salzburg, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter, Napoli, Benfica, probably Benfica, if they get through the qualifier, Sporting Lisbon and Bayer Leverkusen. So, gentlemen, I put it to you. 2 questions. 1, the glamour group, right? The glamour group. Doesn't matter if we get a horse, the glamour group. And 2, a group that gives a wee sniff you getting through either second or third. Or perhaps Ralph being overly optimistic this season, trouncing them all and winning.
I was just about to say, can we have a third option, which is a group where we can definitely finish?
Right. Okay, can we have a 4th option of the group of death where we get humped?
That's the glamour group. So, pot 1, Desi, glamour group. Pot
right, well, you know, you and I have had a few football adventures over the years, and we've waited, what is that now, 1980, 1982, when was the last time we played Madrid? 40 years ago. 40 years ago. And I have a personal connection at Madrid. My daughter's already been a VIP, etc., in with Mr. Perez. So I'm still waiting on that glamour tie. So if we get that, then that's the only game I care about. Madrid and Madrid. That would be the epitome of the Champions League for me. So that would be.
So at pot 1, Desi, the glamour. I'm with you. You know I'm with you, Madrid, right? For the glamour, right? Monty, pot 1. Who's your glamour?
You can't say anything other than Real Madrid. That's the glamour team. That's the one you want.
Ralph, how about yourself?
The glamour, Real Madrid. It's the only major European team I've not seen in the flesh.
Are they more successful than Rangers, Real Madrid? That's the question.
No.
No one is. No.
Right, okay. Pot 2, then we've agreed that's the glamour. Pot 2, the glamour. Pot 2, we've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Barcelona, Juventus. So we can't get, if we pick Madrid, we can't get Barcelona or Seville or Atletico Madrid, right? Because you can't get 2 clubs from the same country. So there's only 5 teams then. Liverpool, Chelsea, Juventus, Leipzig or Spurs. Glamour.
I'm going for Spurs. I would like it to play Spurs because it's a cracking big stadium. I think you could have a cracking atmosphere in it. We've played Barcelona far too many times.
So we can't get there because we've got.
That's fine. All right, so you and I have been to Juventus. We've played Juventus now, and Celtic's very first Champions League game. Let's not forget. Yes. It was meant to be Rosenborg. Remember, they get cancelled because of 9/11.
Yeah. So Ralph, so Desi's gone for Spurs. Ralph, who of those 5 teams? Those 5.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't understand what glamour means. Obviously, Tottenham. They wouldn't win the North London Cup if Arsenal.
Can you imagine Andrew v. Conte? How glamorous would that competition be? The hair.
It has to be Juventus. That's it. We owe them one as well.
Juventus. You would take Juventus. I just don't like Juventus. Do you know that?
Not the same. Exactly.
For me. Yeah, I think it goes back to getting cheated over there and the police and everything. Yeah. Shit. Doesn't do it for me as a glamour game.
I was there when McLeod scored against them 1,000 years ago. I missed the 4-3 game, but yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Juventus. How about you then, Monty? Who's your pot 2 glamour
team? There's only one glamour team there, and it's Liverpool.
Oh, the typical Irish, isn't he? That's his first team. Liverpool.
Glamour here. We're talking glamour.
No.
I would prefer that we avoided all English teams. I don't want to play an English team. But for glamour, Liverpool.
I would. It's interesting when I get your point. I would go with Spurs as well, right? As for one, it's going to London, brand new stadium. We've not played them.
Exactly.
I don't think ever. We played Liverpool a lot in the last 15 years, 20 years.
Chelsea are shit.
Chelsea nice
to go to.
So anyway, interesting, right? And pot 3 for glamour. Let's go over this. So, with Dortmund, Salzburg, Shakhtar Donetsk, Inter, Napoli, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon, or somebody else.
Easy peasy. Come on, there's only one team you can pick there. There's only one trip you could possibly want to go to there. And that's Napoli. Come on, who's kidding who? Naples is one of the best places in the world. I'd go there, I think I might actually go to Napoli and watch them play, even if they don't get Celtic. I can see Hector in his Diego Maradona t-shirt. I can just see it in there.
Well, Daisy, there's the 4 teams that I've picked there. Can you see that?
No.
Bring it other way.
I can see your 4 fingers, thanks. No. Oh, here we go. We're nearly there. Napoli, all done. See, we're such a like. That's what playing for St Mary's in the Carlton does to you.
Right, Ralph, who's your pot 3 team?
Benfica.
I've played them loads, though, haven't I? I've played them like every fucking
Champions League season. That's what it is.
Group. You have Real Madrid, Juventus, Benfica, and Celtic. 4.
Oh, it's a glamour group.
That's 4 out of maybe the top 5 teams in Europe. Clubs, not teams, clubs in Europe. The 5th one is obviously Nottingham Forest, but I have spent a lot of time in Nottingham, so I'm maybe kind of biased. But that's 4. That is 4 great away games. That's 4.
I don't think Juventus is a great away game. I think they're just a horrible. Turin's a horrible.
Well, we did have an adventure when we went there, but that's
another story. Right, Mon, take it on then. Who's your choice?
Again, glamour. I'm torn between a trip to Lisbon and both of those giants, or Inter. And I think Inter would probably win it if we're talking just pure football glamour. You take that group, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Inter, and us. That's our...
The Inter even have their own ground.
Of course. But that's our
Inter doesn't even have their own ground, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
But it's not the ground, it's not the trip, it's the fucking football and glamour of a group like that, where you know that's just fucking Horseville, Tennessee. But that's... I would love to
be honest, that pot fee is pretty shit, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Can I throw a wee outsider, right? It's a glamour one. But a wee nod for Dortmund, that 80,000 stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're no up there with Inter and that, but Dortmund, their fans are pretty good, 80,000 stadium. I think that's a wee outside shout to Dortmund.
Did Ralph call you a Wankdorf there?
The Wankdorf Stadium, exactly.
What did you say about Dortmund there? How come nobody in the Scottish press has asked the question that why Erling Haaland, who's now the big name in England, what difference that could have made to Rangers last year when they played Dortmund if he'd played? It's funny though.
So that's the glamour group.
Mm-hmm.
Let's change the question, right? Of the groups, in fact, we'll just go through, pick your 3 teams then. Of the groups, which one do you think gives us a chance of progressing? Either to the last 16 or into the, Europa?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we start with Daisy, go for it. Who's your 3?
Right, I've got a feeling everybody's got to jump on the Eintracht Frankfurt bus, but I would go. I think we could beat Ajax. They're a team always in transition, and I think we could raise our game.
Is that the Calvin Bassey? Is that the Calvin Bassey effect? Is it?
No, we've done well. There you go. Exactly. We know what we're up against. So we've done it quite a few times to Ajax over the years. So I mean, we've done it quite a few times. So I think we could take Ajax home and away.
Who's your pot 2?
Pot 2? Pot 2, let's go for... By the way, see in current form, I reckon we could probably take Liverpool at home, to be brutally honest with you. I think we could share the points with Liverpool, so I'll go for Liverpool. I'm telling you, we could raise our game here.
We've only 3 games at the season.
I'm just going by their form too. There's loads of gaps there, etc. They're a team in transition, and they're old. We're young and they're old.
Pot 3.
Pot 3 is it's a rotten thing, mate. You'd have to go for. It's a shame about the travel, but you'd have to go for Shakhtar Donetsk.
I think they're going to play in Poland. Isn't that right?
Aye.
Oh no, we're not going to Poland. We'll go for Salzburg then. Let's.
So Ajax.
Liverpool, Salzburg.
You think with that group?
7 points. I think we're looking at 7 points there.
Right. Okay. Go for it. Okay, Ralph, who are you going for?
What was pot 1's got Eintracht Frankfurt in it, so that's because they needed penalties to beat them. So I would take Eintracht in pot 1. Pot 2, who's left in there?
Liverpool, Chelsea, Barcelona, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla, Leipzig, Tottenham.
Barcelona, they'll sell everything.
That Lewandowski, he's rubbish, isn't he? That guy started on Sunday.
Who's that?
Lewandowski.
Aye, okay. He'll be away by the end of the week.
He only came last week.
Barcelona, and whichever pot PSV Eindhoven's in, because they're crap as well.
Well, they'll be in our pot, they'll be pot 4.
What's pot 3?
So pot 3, on you go, Hector, pot 3.
Dortmund, Salzburg, Shakhtar, Inter, Napoli, Benfica, Sporting, Leverkusen.
Unless Dortmund get Haaland back for 2 games, I would go for Dortmund. Or can you have a Frankfurt? Yep. Who else?
For fuck's sake.
Salzburg, Donetsk, Milan, Napoli, Lisbon, Benfica, Bayer Leverkusen. You can't have them either. You can't have it. So you're down to Shakhtar Donetsk or into Milan or Napoli.
I'm Sporting Lisbon because it's a good day out. Right. So Sporting Lisbon, Frankfurt. The Champions League isn't very high on quality.
Barcelona. Aye.
Money.
Barcelona.
Winnable, or a group that we can come out of. Ajax or Porto. I'll go with Ajax just for the same reason I've mentioned.
Do you don't think Monte Porto would guarantee the gubbers at home because that's what they do to us at home?
No, not anymore. No, I don't. I just those type of anyway. Ajax for me. Team out of pot 2. I would veer towards Barcelona because I just think I watched them against Rayo Vallecano. They're fucking terrible, really, really terrible. But we've been there loads, and you want a better chance? I think we'd take Leipzig this time. So I'd go Ajax, Leipzig, Sporting. We'll definitely beat Sporting. We'll beat Sporting home and away. We will beat a Portuguese team. I have no doubt playing with Postecoglou's system now. We'll beat a Portuguese team home and away, or we'll get 4 points out.
Okay, Hector, over to you.
I'm going to go for Frankfurt. They've sold even one or two of their best players for the team that struggled to beat the Zombies. So Frankfurt. Pot 2, I'm going to stick with Spurs. Spurs are Spurs.
Spurs are twice.
No, but glamour and I think Spurs are hit and miss. It doesn't matter who's in charge. They're so inconsistent. Spurs. And in pot 3, I'm going to go for Shakhtar simply because they're playing in Poland. That must help us. Must help us. Must give us a chance. So there we go then.
I don't think they've won anything, and yet they're in a Champions League.
Here's a question.
Actually, sorry, just before we move off the Shakhtar question, sorry lads to jump in, but do they have a domestic league? They don't.
No.
So there's a Champions League that won't have competitive football. So revising all fucking permutations, that's who you'd want to play then.
The argument is that Bodo Glimt hadn't played for months before they played us.
Different.
It was just
quick question. Do you think the imminent World Cup will have an impact on the Champions League? As in, I'm just looking at these teams and going, how many of them would be kind of protecting themselves a wee bit as we go towards the end of the Champions League games?
I wouldn't worry too much about the World Cup. I think players are probably thinking, do you know what, it's a couple of months off. There'll be a wee holiday for them. It's not going to be the same as previous World Cups.
Yeah, just check there. Shakhtar will be playing in Warsaw, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's next Thursday, August the 25th, 5 p.m. So this is Monty's reminding everybody, flights to Warsaw will be immediately going up in price by 5:45 p.m. depending on which point Celtic come into the draw, and Ryanair can increase their prices. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. So that's that. So that's next week. So that'll be interesting. Sunday we've got Hearts. Hopefully we'll.
You know the Champions League thing. We're all talking about who we want and whatever. Do you notice that we've all got different opinions? Which is another kind of thought about how confident we are now.
Yeah,
as opposed
I'm not confident.
I'm just looking forward to it. Right. So that brings me perfectly to my final question, which you just prompted me there, Ralph. Hector, what's the group you don't want?
The group I don't want? The glamour group.
That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. like, you can have a glamour group, and like, we played PSG a couple of years ago and got horsed. So, but it's still, but I'm talking about as in the group, you wouldn't want there. So I'm looking like Man City. We wouldn't want to play them, would we? Like that idea. Man City, we've mentioned Juventus. Like,
Atletico Madrid.
Atletico Madrid, that would be an interesting tie, you know what I mean? But
no, but the way they play, they're
no, but I'm talking about, like, say Man City, I mean, like, teams you wouldn't want to get, Man City, would you want to get Bayern Munich? PSG? No. No, I mean, like, these sort of things.
You want a shake group that you're not going to get excited about and going to get horsed? Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, and Leverkusen.
Yeah, exactly. So that idea would be like, there we go. You know what I mean? And you kind of know, again, it'll be a
Paris Saint-Germain. Can you get...
It'll end up being the usual. Sporting Lisbon, Man City, and say Barcelona or something. These same standard Champions League groups where you just turn off until next February or whatever to get, once we finish with the group stages. So it'll be interesting, but that's next week's, folks. So I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to the Champions League draw next Thursday. Right, so look out for that, and as well as looking out for Ralph's diary. Ralph, are you looking forward to a diary between now and next week at all, or has the work demands got you?
The story behind it is, if I'm not up by 3:30 in the morning, I can't do one. I haven't the time. That will change over the next couple of weeks because I've altered a couple of things. You'll just need to bear with me.
That's fine, good stuff. So everybody look out for Ralph's diary at etims.net. Please like and subscribe. Thanks very much for listening. Like and subscribe where you pick up the podcast. Thanks very much as always. It's just left for me to thank the guys for joining tonight. And maybe we may be on, if we get that glamour tie, or we get the group of death, or we get the group of boredom, we may jump on next Thursday for a wee quick half an hour roundup assessment. Hector's made a note of all the selections, I believe, there, so we can see what happens next week. So it's just left for me to thank everyone for listening and to thank Hector. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you, Desi. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Monty.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
And finally, last but not least, thank you to Ralph. Thank you, Ralph.
Cheers.
Is Ralph in a basement?
Yeah, just for anyone listening, what you don't see is Ralph's in his man shed and he's not worked out how to work the electrics yet. So he's gradually, as the sun's going down, down, all we can see now is the light from his cigarette. It's just a wee small orange ember.
You're just waiting on it takes the lotion from the basket and rub the lotion on its skin.
There's some Peter Sutcliffe thing about Ralph, isn't there? There's some Peter Sutcliffe, Fred West thing about Ralph, isn't there?
I don't know if anybody remembers the cover for The Exorcist 3, but it went like that for a wee bit where it was just this wee grey face. In the background, we could just make it. So nice to know Ralph's keeping up the demonic rituals down in Stoke as per his neighbours. So anyway, so we'll conclude with that lovely image. And again, folks, thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll catch up, as I say, possibly next week. If not, just at the end of the transfer window, and we'll see if anyone has come in and if anyone has left. Alright, my name's Desmond. Thank you again. Good night.